Please welcome your 2013 NAILBA Chairman, Ray Phillips.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to NAILBA 32, the grand gala of the brokerage industry, the Academy Awards of Brokerage. Think about it, it's our anniversary party. The big dance, as one blogger's called it, where BGAs and vendors and carriers come together to celebrate this industry and the relationships we have together. Where the brokerage elite meet to greet and eat. You know, you look at our industry and heck, our society, and things are changing. You know, regulations, technology, demographics are all changing our lives and our agencies. And our association has to evolve along with those trends. It can be quite confusing and often uncomfortable and sometimes downright scary. As one of my favorite singer-songwriters, John Prine, puts in one of his songs, "Ooh, baby, it's a big old goofy world." You know, it sure is a goofy world, but thanks to my service the past few years, and especially this year, I've become very aware NAILBA has one important key to its continued success. It's right here in this room. It's you, the NAILBA member. I'm so thankful to have seen so many of you in action on our committees, on our board, or as concerned, engaged members who've called me with suggestions and ideas. After my service to this organization, now more than ever, I know NAILBA is a band of creative, positive, and entrepreneurial members. You know, I recently read the book, The Chaos Imperative by Ori Brofman, and Brofman postulates somewhat convincingly that the most ingenious strategies, the best ideas, and often significant societal change come out of a period of chaos. I don't think it's too far of a stretch to think that we're in a somewhat chaotic period in our business. You got HIPAA and e-apps and Obamacare and Twitter and e-policy delivery, Dodd-Frank, suitability. It sure seems we're in some tumultuous waters. But again, we have you, our members, our volunteers, our staff, our committee members, and our board. Forgive me, I have faith and confidence in us. NAILBA's been going through some rearranging and shoring up of its foundation since I've been on the board, and it's really accelerated since our strategic plan was set forth in the spring of 2011. We tried to envision where membership would be 5-10 years out and what new members would look like. This led to the board taking a number of steps to make sure that NAILBA is keeping pace with the industry. Recently, the board worked to simplify our membership criteria. Likewise, a new membership survey was created to better gauge what members want from this organization and to get a real snapshot of our member agencies. This allows us to better formulate programs, offerings, and indeed, your feedback provides the board with data to help steer the ship effectively going forward. Participation was robust, and the survey was done in a statistically appropriate, scientific manner, not just willy-nilly, to confirm the accuracy of the results. The little shakeup in our annual meeting with the pre-session featuring Maddox Douglas happens because of the input from the answers you provided. Please, when we release the membership survey in 2014, take the time to complete it. It's a vital tool in helping the board take this organization in an appropriate direction and allows the staff to get a sense of what's important on a day-to-day basis. The look of our Government Affairs Committee has changed since I joined the board. Doesn't it seem funny that just 4 years ago we didn't have a Government Affairs staff person? We now have an engaged Government Affairs staffer and a committee that is extremely informed on legislative activities and keeps an eye out for regulations and legislation that might impact NAILBA members exclusively. In just a few minutes, Barbara Crowley, your Government Affairs Chair and NAILBA Chair-elect, will give you a detailed report. We continue to have positive, ongoing dialogue with our other industry groups, both at the staff level and the volunteer level. Each year we get together with the Life Foundation, AALU, NAIFA, NAHU, SFSP, and a number of other industry associations at the Joint Executives Committee meeting. This year's was in Chicago and hosted by MDRT, and it was a great success. While NAILBA staff is in constant communication with our peer industry groups, it's very rewarding and reassuring from my perspective for NAILBA's leaders to have informal and formal sessions with the volunteer leaders of other associations. One of the organizations we have a special relationship with is the Life Foundation. We're actively involved in their Life Lesson Scholarship Program. I hope you'll join us here at tomorrow's general session, where you'll hear more about the wonderful work they're doing. In addition, the Life Foundation is launching a new website, and they'll be featuring that at their workshop this afternoon at 4. It's interesting. It was interesting in my travels to see how the NAILBA thread runs through the other associations. The fact is, we're not just partners at an association level, we're members of those associations. It was very reassuring for me to see NAILBA faces at the MDRT meeting, the AALU meeting, and especially at the NAIFA meeting. I really enjoyed this year's NAIFA meeting, and our relationship with that organization is very strong. Each year we host the Independent Advisors Reception, and the one this year at San Antonio in September was a rip-roaring success. Close to 300 brokers and advisors got to hear the NAILBA story up close and personal. There were a number of NAILBA members with their NAIFA hats on, serving in leadership capacities at the local, state, and even national level at that meeting. NAILBA has matured as an organization as the brokerage industry has matured. We have a seat at the table. You know, and I can't help but look back at our founders. Could they have ever pictured all this when they got this association out of the gates? NAILBA is an accepted part of the overall industry dialogue as the voice of independent distribution. Could they have imagined that back in 1981? I'm certain that they could never have imagined where technology has taken us and will take us, and there is no way they could have imagined the regulatory and legislative world we're in. Heck, I remember when an annuity app pack was a couple pages long. Now it can be upwards of 30 pages. Dear Lord. But I have to accept the fact that I'm an old brokerage warhorse now. And there are brilliant younger minds in our membership midst. If you look around, isn't it interesting the number of agencies that are in transition? The membership survey showed that 35% of our agencies have recently completed a principal change or will do so in the next 5 years. And an additional 31% have a succession plan in place. I really think we're on the cusp of a new age of brokerage and a new age of NAILBA. Do you think the next generation will approach business in the same manner as the patriarch did? For all the angst I feel about the length of an annuity app, there are many principals who are younger than me that have never known otherwise. So what happens to our brokerage industry when the leaders of our member agencies don't know who First Colony or Security Connecticut were? I think it's a whole new perspective on what we do for a living. I think that's why there's such tremendous spirit in the Agency Successor Networking Group. It's going on 3 years old now. We host a workshop exclusively for that group at this meeting every year. The relationships that are being created, the knowledge that's being selflessly shared, is the stuff that fuels an industry. It's the type of event that leads to the type of changes that Bronfman refers to in the book that I'd mentioned earlier. And I think in reference to this organization and its future leadership, it's not only the Agency Successor Networking Group, it's the Association Networking Group. Some of our future leaders will be found in that group. Did you ever look around and take note of the family influence in this association? Ours is a membership of agencies. And the number of agencies that have a family-centric structure is very apparent. You look at the recent roster of association leaders and how many are second generation. Mark Rosen, my friend from Pittsburgh, second generation. Christy Doffenbaugh, second generation. David Long, Barbara Crowley, members of the executive committee, second generation. And our latest addition to the executive committee, Chip Van Dusen, second generation. The evidence is all over this association. It's nice for me as a second generation agency head to associate with so many family-owned small business owners in this group. I think that makes NAILBA unique compared to our peer organizations. Not only are we an association of small business owners, often we're an association of family-owned small business owners. And it seems to me that many of our member agencies that may not be family-run have a closeness between partners and principals that's something different than, say, an accounting firm or a law firm. If you remember my friend Dex's speech last year, he referred to his partner John as his brother. I think that's one of the reasons this meeting has such a feel of a festive family reunion as much as a pure business meeting. And I am pleased that my family is part of the overall NAILBA family, and I'd like to introduce my family to my NAILBA family. Up here in the front row, I've got my wonderful wife, Sue, who has been nothing but selfless and supportive. And truth be told, she's the person behind the curtain. She's probably been the real chairman of NAILBA this past year. I've got my son, Zach, extremely good-looking and talented, not like his dad. I've got my daughter, Kelsey, whose external beauty is only exceeded by her internal beauty, and her internal beauty is only exceeded by her golf swing. It's a beautiful golf swing. And then I've got my boss, my lifeline, Hannah, 11 years old and keeps me hopping. And Hannah has had a very important part in this meeting. She picked out my tie. You know, thanks. You know, it's funny and somehow appropriate that standing here before you and looking at my family that I get a little bit nostalgic and reflective. I think of when I first got in the business, and I didn't really have many formal goals. It took me about a year when I wrote down my first and only real formal goal that I've ever written down. I attended my first SubCenters meeting back in 1989-90 at the Back Bay Hilton in Boston, Massachusetts, and it floored me. I couldn't believe the viability and the power of the people that were in attendance, and the majority of them, the overwhelming majority, were NAILBA members. I'd never really met anyone in the business before except my father-in-law, Mac McElmont, and his partner, Tim McKenna, who many of you probably remember. The people at that meeting were so impressive. They showed me what potential there was in this business and in me. I was fascinated. There were so many in attendance. It impacted me. The gentleman, George Williams, still here. Art Jeter, my gosh. Ron Verzone. Remember Mike and Craig Thomas were there, and many, many others. But you know, the real life-changing experience occurred at my baptism into brokerage late that first night of the meeting. For those of you who have never been to a SubCenters meeting, and especially in the old days, the hospitality suite is the heartbeat of that group. Plans are hatched, ideas are generated, arguments. And it's there on that first night I found myself the last man standing with 4 seasoned veterans of the brokerage business and extremely powerful personalities. A gentleman named Peck Whitlock out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Felton McCrary out of Florida. My hero, Jim Stewart, out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And the iconic Satius Milner out of Atlanta. For an hour or so, I got an amazing lesson in the brokerage business and life. Basically, they chewed me up and they spit me out. What do you think would happen? I'm a 28-year-old punk from Pittsburgh, and I'm hanging with these 4 gentlemen from south of the Mason-Dixon line. They pummeled me. But I was totally impressed by these people, the way they carried themselves. They showed me the potential in this business. They showed me that how much I could learn from interacting with the people in this industry. So, when I got back to the office, I wrote down the only goal that I've actually formally written down. And it was to have a beer with as many people in this business as possible. Now, before you think I'm some proponent of inebriation or an endorser of insobriety, you have to understand the context from where that came from. See, I'm Pittsburgh to the core. I was raised in Pittsburgh's lower middle class, blue collar environment. My dad was a card carrying member of the U.S. Steelworkers Union. And in that Western Pennsylvania socioeconomic class, having a beer was much more than just having a malt beverage. It was a metaphor for an expanded relationship with the person. When you said, hey, let's have a beer, it meant that you were extending an olive branch. You wanted to get to know that person. You wanted to swap stories. You wanted to swap experiences. You wanted to elevate that relationship to a more personal level. I feel so fortunate to have had a beer, either literally or figuratively, with so many people in this room. I've gotten insights and had experiences and learned so much from you. I've built so many wonderful friendships. I've formed alliances. I've strived to be as good as you. To have had the honor to serve as chair of this association of my peers, my friends, and my heroes is something I could have never thought of back at that SubCenter's meeting so long ago. Thank you so much for the opportunity to serve. It is humbling to serve such a creative, entrepreneurial, knowledgeable membership. It is that same creativity, knowledge, and entrepreneurial spirit that makes me so bullish on the brokerage business and will assure that NAILBA remains the voice of independent distribution. Hey, let's have a beer. Thanks very much.